Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Unlocking Partnership Success, Avoiding Pitfalls with the Right Vendor whilst optimizing processes. Today's businesses are under pressure to stay competitive and up to date when it comes to emerging technologies. However, it's easy to get bogged down by inefficient manual processes which can stand in the way of achieving overarching business goals. Technologies such as AI and workflow automation have the potential, when implemented correctly, to boost productivity and free up employees for other tasks. Incorporating these technologies to optimize business processes should be a priority across all industries, but organizations may lack the skills or resources, especially in-house. Rather than tackling everything in-house, the right partnerships with SaaS vendors are essential. Today's customers want more from their partnerships than a good product, and their expectations when it comes to expertise, access to cutting-edge technologies, and interpersonal relationships are higher than ever. A lack of support, miscommunication, and a lack of understanding of customer needs and business goals can cause partnerships to break down. This webinar will explore the challenges organizations are facing in 2024 and the right partnerships and how these can help to overcome them. It will examine how access to emerging tech enabled by these partnerships is streamlining business processes and boosting productivity. Finally, it will explore important issues such as changing industry regulations, market saturation, and declining product margins. So, without further ado, with me is David Milan, Sales Director at DocuWare, Simon Isaacs, National Sales Director at Rico UK, our very own Ellen Daniel, Senior Content Strategist at The Channel Company, and my name is Victoria Pavlova, and I am editor of CRN. So to kick us off, perhaps the best way to go would be for you, Ellen, to go over the initial findings of the research.
Yes, thanks, Victoria. So for our webinar today, we surveyed a variety of IT leaders from different industries to understand the pain points and challenges they're facing and how partners can help solve them. In this first finding, we were looking at the major problems they're encountering in today's market. And the biggest problem that emerged was business growth rates followed by declining product margins and an oversaturated market. Just 14% said that they're not experiencing any of the issues that we listed. And this gives vendors a real insight into the pain points they should be solving. Customers are feeling the effects of macroeconomic challenges, and this means that getting channel partnerships right is more important than ever. And in this next finding, we saw that the most common products purchased through channel partners were cloud services, networking, cybersecurity related products, and endpoint hardware. Automation, AI and machine learning, and HPC GPU compute were the least common answers. This fits with the rise in the as-a-service model, with organizations often outsourcing cloud and networking, and cloud continuing to drive growth for solution providers. In this next finding, we asked if they had switched to a new SaaS vendor in the last 12 months. And 80% of respondents said they had not switched to a new SaaS vendor in the past 12 months, with just 15% switching. The reasons given for switching included better products, economic considerations, and a move to the cloud for SIEM. Organizations may be risk averse when it comes to their choice of vendor, and they might be opting for a tried and tested partner rather than an unknown provider. And in this final finding for this first section, we asked the factors that respondents considered essential for long-term partnership success. And the factor that they deemed most critical to a successful partnership with a SaaS vendor was support. Notably, this was ranked more highly than an ongoing product development, so that we can see that while having a good product is important, the overall service that they're receiving from a vendor is key. There's a clear need for technical assistance from vendors, with respondents valuing vendor expertise, particularly when it comes to cutting-edge technologies, but also the support they're receiving in marketing and sales strategies.
Thanks, Ellen. So there's a few things there. Obviously, relationships are a factor. Product quality and implementation is a massive factor. But I'm interested to dig in. Obviously, we're all thinking about the bottom line, particularly in a year where that is becoming increasingly difficult to nail. So I'm interested in hearing, how can partnerships with SaaS vendors effectively address issues such as slow business growth rates and declining product margins? Maybe Simon, you'd like to tackle this first?
Thank you. Yes, thanks, Victoria. Slow business growth. I think when you're looking for growing your business, it's focusing on your core business, whether that's in financial services or retail, legal. It doesn't really matter. It's that focus. So picking your partners to navigate the other stuff is really critical if you're going to do that. And as you said in the introduction, removing that onerous process, the stuff that doesn't allow creativity around your core business, doesn't allow you to think about the landscape and therefore your competitiveness. And especially on the third one, when you're dealing with an oversaturated market, efficiency and effectiveness is critical. And there's a lot of bad habits when you are in a competitive marketplace, and cutting costs to focus on what you can see rather than focus on what you can't see and what's difficult. And automating those processes, automating those things that take time but don't really add value to your end customer is absolutely critical. And also, when you get that right and it's really good, it is a competitive advantage in itself, because we all like dealing with people and companies that are easy to deal with. So if your processes and your systems are really effective and really good, your customers will like dealing with you because you're very effective at the way you serve them. And your suppliers in a supply chain, if that's disrupted, you'll be one of their good suppliers because you'll be very effective at placing orders and very effective at paying them. So the whole process management landscape and automation feeds a lot of these, and I'm guessing the 14% that aren't suffering from any of the above are probably people that already do this really well, or possibly they're in a growth sector that's growing so quickly they don't notice, or maybe they're just my customers.
Good one.
Absolutely. Better relationships drive better business overall. David, what's your take?
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously I agree with all of those, but if you take a look in general at most service providers or value-added resellers or resellers of IT technology in general, the market catches up, right? They see that we are successful in certain areas and more people start focusing on what I'm doing. And when we take a look at an oversaturated market, that is what happened. Consumers understand the offering and it becomes more difficult for me to win business. Because now for me to win business, I actually need to convince a customer that the solution or offering that I have is better than my competitors. And diversifying is the answer, because I need to be able to offer more value to my customers. So firstly, they stay with me for much longer or even forever. But in diversifying, I'm also diversifying in things that it fits in easier with my current offering, right? Not something that is completely different and changes the outlook and the way that I'm going to market and the way that our salespeople are looking for new business. And I think that is the main thing that is missing here, and also becomes apparent in some of the other questions that we have asked in the survey.
Absolutely. So in terms of the key factors for a strategic partnership, we obviously ran through alignment of strategic goals, which is unsurprisingly the biggest factor, robust technical support and integration, a dedicated team, joint marketing initiatives. How can vendors align their offerings with these goals effectively? Maybe David, you'd like to take this one?
Yeah, I guess everybody will answer that one different, right? Because it's perception, and that's why these surveys are so powerful, because we can understand what people are really thinking out there rather than just what our perception is. But technology that our customers need is so important, right? And that is why we need to understand the problems that our customers currently face. And new technology is generally overlooked. So I tend to go into this rut of offering the same technology to my customers to solve those problems, but there might be new technology available on the market that I have not even considered. And if I take a look at the second question that refers to what services or products do we purchase from IT providers or resellers, when I take a look at things like data analytics, automation, AI, that's massive currently in the market, 16% has said that they purchased that through resellers. I mean, that's a crazy low amount. So if we understand what automation AI can offer within these areas, then it's quite incredible that it's so low. And that's the answer. Is like, I'm not considering the technology because potentially we're not 100% sure of what the problems and issues is that our customers have within their business.
Absolutely. Simon?
Similar. I think that when you're considering where and how to partner, and building that trust, you look at what is top on the list with cloud networking and cybersecurity. They're things that you can go and buy from a partner, and you know you're going to get the service from a big player, from an Amazon or an Arctic Wolf. You know what is going to be provided and how it will be provided to you. So even if you're buying it through a reseller, you're almost buying it because you trust who's going to have the infrastructure to support it and specify it for you. When you start to get down towards automation, AI, machine learning, and that then driving the sort of computing you need for that, the specification and delivery is much more around a consultative approach. You have to understand what those processes are, and you have to have the capability to optimize not just one software product, but offer many software products on their existing infrastructure to make it a success. And then that optimized solution needs support. Who's going to support that? Because it may include DocuWare, it may include Axon Ivy, system orchestration, it may be sitting in an Azure or an AWS environment. Who's your general contractor? Who is going to support it for you is the question. So I can see why these ones at the top end are very prevalent with the reseller channel. But as you start to move down towards more complexity of configuration, making sure you get the specification right to begin with, and I think it leads into some of the other great questions on the survey, that complexity drives a different buying behaviour.
Fantastic. That leads me nicely into the next portion. Ellen, would you like to present the next set of findings?
Thank you. So in this next set of findings, we're looking at what makes a successful partnership and, more crucially, what can cause a partnership to fail. And this kind of what we see really confirms what we've already seen in previous findings. Supporting wider business goals was deemed the most important factor in a successful partnership, followed by robust technical integration and support. Vendors must therefore demonstrate that they're an understanding of their partners' overarching objectives and how their individual offerings are improving business processes as a whole, rather than focusing on point solutions. Discount levels and investment were deemed less important by our respondents. When asked the extent to which channel partners are delivering in the areas identified in the previous finding, the average rating was a 6.9 out of 10. No respondents rated partnerships as less than a 3 out of 10, but just 7% rated them as a 9 or higher. This suggests that while the experiences of partnerships are generally positive, there is some room for improvement. When starting out in new partnerships, an absence of field support and insufficient training were seen as the biggest challenges, as well as a shortage of marketing materials, with these factors making it difficult to promote and implement solutions. A lack of sales training was viewed as less of a hurdle for success. Encouragingly, a quarter said they have not experienced any of the challenges listed. Overpromising and under-delivering, as well as a lack of alignment on business goals or marketing needs, were driving factors behind partnership breakdowns. Interestingly, a lack of support and inefficient onboarding were deemed to be less of a deciding factor in a partnership breakdown, despite these being identified as important in previous findings.
That's really interesting, Ellen. Thank you. So some encouraging findings there, certainly, and some slightly questionable one potentially. So let's take it from the top. Partnerships were generally rated positively, with some room for improvement. What specific areas do you believe require the most attention to enhance partnership satisfaction and efficacy? Let's start with you, David.
Yeah. Perception drives this answer, all right? And when you speak to different partners, especially ones focusing on different types of technologies as their main core offering, they also have a different viewpoint as to what kind of support they want and where they need assistance. You will speak to partners that have great technical ability and provide incredible customer service, and they think that they could continue and growing their business with 1 or 2 salespeople that is promoting your business. Where you would find somebody that is significantly more product orientated or deals with higher volumes of customers that would put much more value in a sales organization. So for a provider or a service that I'm offering to partners, I need to be able to speak to both those kind of partnerships. and they would require something different from me. And I would need to give them different types of marketing support, and I need to be significantly more focused on sales activities rather than technical activities. But I would guess that every partner would view that differently, but we can all agree that support is what our customers are looking for, it's what our partners are looking for, and as long as we're strategic, then we can generally answer those questions.
Fantastic. Simon, as the resident partner representative in the room, what do you think can be improved in the partnership dynamic?
There is always room for improvement in everything. Good partnerships with customers and with your vendors like DocuWare always come from honesty. You know, it's sometimes, obviously, it's picking your partners, picking your customers, but also picking the ones that aren't right, and or the engagements that aren't correct. We all know our sales teams have got targets here, and they can be very enthusiastic about turning every opportunity into an order, maybe for something like DocuWare. But you know, sometimes it's not the right fit. And what we look for and what we get from our best partners is that that evaluation help. You know, this really isn't a good fit, guys, or this won't work for you in the way that your customer's going to expect. It's going to cause problems down the line. So sort of like the old sort of Coveney, start with the end in mind. You know, if you're going to start a successful partnership, make sure you're very clear about what it can do and what it can't do. Be really specific about what it's not as well. And that then it's you're starting off with the right partnership, and then so what I'd say is room for improvement. Make sure your representatives are very specific, and push back if it's not a good fit. Don't just accept everything.
So really lead with honesty and directness from the outset.
Yeah, and you know, there's always an area of grey where there's an overlap. And where, you know, there's different features, functions in a product which are, you know, an 80-90% fit. But as long as you understand that, it can be a perfect fit. But if it's really low on those scores, if it's a 10-20% fit, maybe pick your battles and make sure that you've got the right advice with your partners to say, come on guys, this one really isn't going to work as well as you'd hoped, and you're going to let your customers down, and then that impacts long-term support and confidence in the brand and the partnership.
Fantastic. So let's dig into that a little bit, both of those answers actually. The research highlights key challenges such as absence of field support and insufficient training when starting new partnerships. So let's throw it to you, David, first to answer from the vendor perspective. How can vendors overcome these obstacles and kind of lay the groundwork for a successful collaboration?
Yeah. Every vendor would want their partners or distribution channel to be as self-sufficient as possible, right? I mean, that's the recipe for low cost and high output. It's maximizing my revenue with as little impact as possible. But I've got to kind of match that. I've got to make sure that the support that I'm providing matches especially what the customer is expecting, but more importantly, to make them successful. There's no point in any kind of relationship or any kind of partnership if there's not success on both sides, because as Simon just said, otherwise somebody will just climb out. It's not working for them, and the kind of support that they're getting doesn't fit to what they expect. And the ethical thing is incredibly important. The moment that I'm honest, the moment that I'm open and I'm sharing exact experiences, then it generally solves most of those problems. But yes, training is critical. It's absolutely critical, especially if you're bringing new people into the business. But also if you're onboarding a completely new concept or a completely new technology, then you do need to understand how that technology can actually fit into my customer's business. Not necessarily the fact that can I make some money off it and can it increase my revenue and increase my wallet share with my customer, but actually what is it that they are gaining from it? Am I going to become a trusted advisor? And the moment that you can help your partners to cross that hurdle to understand what is the impact for the customers, then generally you know exactly what needs to be trained on, and you know exactly what kind of support they actually need rather than want.
Absolutely. Simon, from the partner perspective, what do you think can be done to overcome the kind of dual challenges of absence of field support and insufficient training?
we were talking about it before the podcast, running and teaching people to walk and talk, and then try and slow them down for the rest of their lives. Because you want to move from maybe one sort of document-based solution or one sort of software into another sort and engage a partner, doesn't mean to say you should run headlong straight into selling it. David talks about training. You talk about capability to deliver. You've got to think about what sort of vendor you're going to be. So for me, I'm a reseller of DocuWare and other software, and we act as systems integrators. So I've got now 6 or 7 pre-sales guys trained, a similar number of delivery guys, and we've got great second level support and cloud infrastructure from DocuWare sitting behind that. That's a journey, that's a plan. So you're building a business. So if you are wanting just to be a reseller where you just do the sale and then hand it over, you used to expect skinnier margins. But if you want to go into this over the long term, you need to plan to build a business. So you invest in some people from the outset, which will be a cost, and they get trained on the journey. So they sit next to your supplier, your in this case DocuWare, and you learn project by project as you become an expert. But you invest in those people to go on the journey from the outset, which then bridges the gap between what the end customer expects from support and the reality of buying it through a reseller, which probably goes back to the original survey on why only, was it 18% of people are buying process automation through resellers at the moment. It's thinking about that journey. There's a massive opportunity there, but it's an investment. So you're not selling a commodity. You're selling an idea and a hypothesis to your customer. You can do this better. You can free your people to be more creative, to drive your core business. But as a reseller, if you're going to do that, you need the people to sit with project by project from the outset and then learn skill with the training. Great training, great support, but you need those practitioners on your team if you're going to build a solid practice.
Absolutely. I mean, that leads into bigger questions such as retention and the skills gap, but that's maybe a topic for another time. So that's the kind of positive way to tackle the issues. On a slightly less positive note, potentially, could you elaborate on how overpromising and under-delivering, as well as misalignment of business goals, which is a factor we mentioned, contribute to partnership breakdowns, and what are the proactive measures to be taken to address that?
It goes back to, I think, what I said at the outset, when you get over-enthusiastic sales guys and they notice that there's a project to process automate something, an AR process or a HR process, and they say, yeah, we can do this, but they don't check on, well, where's the data coming from? What's currently happening? Who signs this off? So they sell a cloud-based 15 tenant license and think they've done, and they've made 15, 20, 30% margin. But then when you go in and specify it, there are a load of unknowns. And all of a sudden, there's more integrations, there's more systems. The sign-off might just not be within that one organisation. It might actually be with vendors or suppliers in their supply chain. So when it goes wrong, you've got someone who is selling something as if they've just sold a thing. You have a tangible thing, a car, where you can compare one car against another car, rather than something you've got to build around processes that are maybe physical at the moment, maybe email-based, and you've actually got to build a system around it, and you haven't specified what that might look like. So because you haven't specified what good looks like, and you haven't specified what you're going to need from the customer to build that, access to systems and stakeholders, it then becomes very difficult, if not impossible, to sign that project off. And that can then lead to animosity between the seller and their partner, because the seller won't take responsibility for it. He's going to blame DocuWare. He's not going to say, oh, it's all my fault to his boss at the partner. They're going to say, oh, these guys didn't do their job properly. So that's where you start to get, some breakdown in accountability and therefore relationship. And it comes from that sort of quality of relationship and engagement from the outset.
Miscommunication, to put it gently. Right, David, what's your take?
I think it's all about qualification. And I mean, absolute facts, but we sell to end customers, and the vendors or the supplier selling to the end customer is acquiring the product somewhere or developing it themselves or purchasing it from retailers, regardless if we're talking about a product or a service. But at the end of the day, everybody is selling to everybody, right? And everybody is buying from somebody else. And in the qualification process, we need to understand, does this fit for us? Not only as the person acquiring the product or service, but also the person selling the product or service. Does this fit for us? If we truly communicate what our goals are and what your goals are, and can we make them aligned, then we know what to expect going forward. If you play open cards with me and I play open cards with you, then we know exactly where we stand. So miscommunication is something I think that generally comes from that initial qualification, because people are over-eager to start the relationship, especially from a sales perspective. They're over-eager to start a relationship, but at the end of the day, they might just waste time because it's not something that will be beneficial for them in the long run. So, I mean, it comes back to ethics, comes back to communication and just what is expected.
Yeah, and a good example, I checked before we came, we've got 114 projects in flight with DocuWare at the moment in various specifications to delivery. And only last quarter, we saw one where we'd ordered license from an over-enthusiastic sales guy, and the customer had not actually signed off on anything, and it ended up not being installed. We raised the problem with David and the team, and this has been probably 6, 7, 8 months ago. End of year, the accountants go, "What's this license that you've bought?" And it's not gone anywhere. Due to the trust that we've built up over time, when you do make mistakes, and everyone makes mistakes, we've got 200 sales guys out there that we're pushing to create good quality engagements for DocuWare and other vendors. We were open, and the guys gave us a license credit to use against a different deal. So those bits of the partnership where you can say, we've made a mistake. It was nothing to do with DocuWare. It was nothing to do with David. It was a Rico mistake. Yet they had the good grace and foresight to help us with a credit on the license to use for another customer.
So really keeping that long-term, direct and kind of honest relationship helps build in that flexibility.
Yeah, it's two-way, absolutely.
Fantastic. Let's take it back to Ellen for the next set of findings.
Great, thanks, Victoria. So in this last set of findings, we looked at the importance of implementing cutting-edge technologies for your customers. Almost half of respondents said that new technologies for optimizing business processes were of high importance for them. Just 3% said that their current technology was more than sufficient for their needs. There's a clear need for vendors to provide new technologies and also diverse technologies to enhance their service offerings and also optimize processes for their customers. Unsurprisingly, in this next finding, AI was deemed to have the greatest potential impact to enhance business processes. Workflow optimization was the next most common answer. And we can see that blockchain was deemed to be the least impactful, chosen by just 3%. However, in reality, these technologies are interconnected and often most effective when implemented together. 53% said that general compliance and auditability of processes was a focus when adopting new technologies. 38% agreed that GDPR and similar laws are putting pressure on their information processing. And this shows that vendors must be up to date with industry regulations and how they may affect the different organizations in their ecosystems and be able to pass on this information to their partners. Just 11% said they have partnered with a third party on AI implementation, which is surprising considering that AI was deemed important for optimizing business processes in an earlier finding. When asked how channel partners could aid their AI adoption, responses included better modeling, providing resources and use cases on how they could benefit from AI, technical documentation and training, and providing custom AI solutions rather than off-the-shelf ones.
Fantastic, thank you. So no huge surprises there on the AI front, at least, that was ranked the most important technology. And there's complementary technologies there, such as machine learning, robotic process automation. I don't think that anyone would be particularly, shocked at that finding specifically. But I'd like to throw the question to each of you in turn. Why do you think that this technology was ranked to have the greatest potential impact, and how can organizations work with their partners, which is what was missing from that portion, effectively to leverage the technology? David?
So one of our channel managers have this saying when he's in training. He says, I always ask please to the AI engine, because one day when the Terminator comes, he'll pass me by. Those are not the exact words, but close enough. It's very interesting when you look at the different questions, because you've mentioned, Ellen, the difference between the fact that everybody believes that AI can have a positive impact, but 81% have not implemented it. And if we look at the second survey question, only 16% are looking at expansion on that or adding it to their product offering. So people believe it can have a positive impact, but I think they're still very, very reluctant. And it comes back to our channel manager's statement of, I'm going to say please, because I don't know what the outcome's going to be. I don't know if it's completely GDPR compliant for me to ask OpenAI any questions or relevant tools. So I don't know what I can do and what I can't do. It's so new for me, right? I'm getting this response and it seems way too intelligent for me, and now he's learning too much about me. So now when we start talking about business, now it becomes business critical information. It's not only GDPR. It's opening up my strategy. It's opening up my knowledge. It's opening up the way that I'm going to business, right? And personally, from our perspective, we're trying to push people in that direction, right? Push them to adopt the new technology, because it's truly having an incredible impact. If you take a look at the effect on artificial intelligence on workflow automation, or even on indexing of documentation, never mind on giving us ideas, or even asking it, where's a good place to take my family this weekend away. It's absolutely crazy, but it's that reluctance, right? I know that it's going to be great, but how are we going to implement it in the business so that we don't make any mistakes?
Right. Still early on in implementation, still a lot of questions left to be answered. So Simon, how do you think organizations can effectively leverage their partner networks to explore the potential of AI, to learn what it's all about, to implement it?
It's, I think as Ellen said, all these technologies are codependent, and some of the terms overlap. To the first question, why is AI so hard? I just think it's marketing. Just the volume of marketing, the volume of news, the volume of investment from very famous technology individuals around the world, from Elon Musk to Jeff Bezos to Mark Zuckerberg. There's a huge amount of news and interest, and trillions of dollars being poured into it. So that's why people are thinking, oh, I need to do this. But also, in terms of the way it's been implemented and the way people are using it, I think organizations are grappling with how to do it, looking at general AI versus specific apps or specific use cases like RPA, which, when you're looking at robotic process automation, that's a kind of smart technology, which is, a type of AI. And that is a foundation to start picking a process. But people are bringing this to work, whether the organization knows about it or doesn't. I use it. So if you are looking to summarize your own notes or look at a few problem statements to work from, some of the AI tools out there are very good at helping you do that. But when you look at doing this as an organization, how do you orchestrate that information between several systems? How do you make sure that the information that is being used can then update a different system, or can let the person know that job is done? So if you're using artificial intelligence, a robotic process automation, or then some sort of machine learning where the machine is actually learning on what it did, and rather than say computer says no, it fixes it for you. You know, what does that sort of sit on? And it sits on system orchestration and workflow automation. So how can partners and organizations start to move to AI or a part of the process which we then use machines to actually completely do? Well, I think you've got to get the process automation there first.
Mm-hmm.
Without the process automation, how do you then expand that based on trust of implementation? Seeing that you've improved someone's working day and working life because you've taken away a manual process, you've taken away the drudgery of doing something that you don't like doing and freed you up to be creative. Then those creative people can look at how AI can complement what they're doing, maybe in finance, maybe when you're looking at overall systems that can talk to each other. This stuff absolutely is better than humans at crunching huge amount of data, which I think must be one of the dullest jobs ever. So for GDPR compliance, for making sure that you're leveraging your data, once you've got the systems automating the processes and the processes connecting each other up, then you can start to look at how you implement AI. So as a partner and a reseller, get the foundations right. Don't jump straight in if you are a general reseller and not the creator of the app, the AI itself. And we've just invested in Native, which is a great OCR capture tool to take documents and use AI to put them into systems and index them and make sure they're in the right filing cabinet. Don't jump straight in at that level. Start talking to your customers about how they can take something that you're used to dealing with and automate it. Do that well, build the trust, and grow from there. And you'll grow your knowledge and your support as well.
So really come from business need rather than the core technology necessarily.
Unless you're in that core technology space, and then that's just your job to sell it. Yeah.
Valid. It's very interesting that we talk about machine learning, RPA, and AI as separate technologies now, because back in the day of 10 years ago, we kind of used to lump machine learning and RPA as parts of AI, but obviously the technology has moved on now. So I'm glad you touched actually on GDPR, because that's going to be my next question. What role do you see emerging technologies, especially AI and workflow automation, playing in ensuring data security and regulatory compliance within organizations? Or could they be hindering it potentially? What's your take?
The GDPR question of where is your data? Are you controlling it? Are you giving people the right security around what you're holding on them as individuals and their right to be forgotten? It can be very onerous, and big businesses hold thousands of touch points for data on individuals. To get people to trawl through that and make sure you're compliant, I mean, wow, what a job that must be. I mean, that must be a very difficult thing to do. Obviously, people use tools which can go across different systems and look for that data. But until you have really implemented the backbone of your organisation to pull and democratise this data, pull it together so you can control and manage it, then you can't really get the systems to help you do it automatically. Is it a risk? Is AI a risk? It depends how people are using it. So if I, as an individual, am just using AI to help me in my job, what corporate information am I stuffing into the great big learning engines out there without it being locked down and with it learning for other organisations? So if people are foolish enough to stick personal data in there, customer data in there, without their employees' knowledge, absolutely it's a risk. So you need policies that also allow people to use the technology in the right way. People will use the technology. Yeah, if you can work out, you can save 15, 20, 30% of your time and free up time to do other things or to not work weekends, you're going to use the technology. So the organisations need to make sure that people can use it in the right way, but also need to make sure they're not doing silly things like putting customer data out there for big tools to learn on.
And you're definitely seeing more organizations wake up to that data security imperative, but I wonder if the genie's almost out of the bottle now. David, what's your take on compliance regulations like GDPR, obviously is the big one. Do you see AI and workflow automation and other emerging tech helping, hindering, how?
Look, I mean, if I have to give you my complete and honest answer, it's going to help, all right? I mean, let's use a simple example. We've got a salesperson that knows he's leaving your organization in 3 months' time. He's got access to your CRM. He downloads the entire list of customers. He sends it to his own cloud storage, or he puts it on a flash drive, and he leaves the office. Is that a greater risk than asking an AI tool to help me write a proposal for XYZ trading? Or is that not? Any technology that I'm going to use is going to come with its risks. Any technology needs to be safeguarded, needs to be implemented in the right way. I need to consider the reason why I'm using it and make sure that I'm using it for that purpose. And make sure that people are properly trained and they understand what is the impact of using any tool, whether that be an artificial intelligence tool or a CRM or an ERP or a workflow tool or whatever the case may be, right? Our data is out there. We're all using cloud these days in some way or the other. And some organizations are still even reluctant to do that. So some people will stay behind. And unfortunately, we've seen it with technologies in the past. If I don't adopt a new technology in my business, I will be left behind. It's simple. It's how it works. Whether that be too fast a moving world for you or not is something you need to decide if you want to be in that line of business.
Absolutely. The risk is always going to be there, and you also have to have a contingency plan for things when things inevitably go wrong. So, my last question: with only a small percentage of respondents partnering with third parties, as the research suggested, for AI implementation, and this is despite a vast majority of respondents ranking it as critically important, what factors do you believe are hindering broader adoption, and how can vendors address these barriers to encourage uptake? David?
I think it would be lovely if we would have expanded on why. That would have been nice, because now I'm going to take a guess, and I would hope that I'm guessing right. I would think that mostly it is because there's so many tools available online now, right? I mean, since we have focused heavily more on AI, we've obviously looked at loads of these, and they call different things, and they do different things, and we all use it somehow, right? If you use a mobile phone, you're using AI. There's AI on it. I mean, most of the cars that's coming out now, you can even ask the car questions that's not related to the car or the fact that you're driving now. Just like, give me an answer to this question. So we're all using it, but for business-specific goals is what I'm assuming the answer is about, and that 81% have not really said, okay, we've got this specific business problem and we want to solve this specific business problem. And it's got to be one of two. It's either reluctance, or I'm using these tools that I currently have available to somehow incorporate it into my organization, but it's not really one of those cornerstone driving points. And it's true when we engage with customers, they're not using AI, all right? They're not using AI for business critical actions, or very, very few of them are. So it's got to be a massive opportunity.
Thank you. Simon, would you care to engage in some wild speculation on what might be hindering adoption?
Well, one thing you'd probably ask was the demographic that was interviewed. If I talk to certain demographics, I won't be specific, there's more fear and uncertainty around the new technology. They're not as open to it, or even understanding what to do with it. So you'd look at the demographic that we were interviewing, but I think we all recognise that there's certain industries and businesses that have really accelerated, and others that aren't engaging and don't know what to do and how to do it. So it's understanding, how can I even do this? And again, you look at the demographic of the average board of directors for mid to large companies, you know, how many of those big industries that could really accelerate their business in certain sectors, in retail or in law or in education, are they of the right demographic to really be pushing this forward? Or will we have to wait for it almost to be so pervasive that they've got to get on board, or they're replaced because they're so far behind that the next generation of leaders come through who do understand it and do embrace it? And like David, I think those that embrace it quicker and better with a plan will do better, because it will free their people up to really concentrate on the exciting creative stuff that drives businesses forward. But we have to bear in mind that when we look at that pie chart with what people think are important around RPA and blockchain, and not really understanding the interdependence, and as you said, these terms were coined. Machine learning and AI was coined late in the 50s. They're not new terms. How we then implement them across huge networks of systems around CRM systems that have to report and interface with ERP systems, the size of the projects is just daunting sometimes. How do we do this? Where do I even start? So having that plan, if you're going to engage the market, if you're a reseller or a partner like Rico, it's being able to put it into bite-sized chunks that are achievable. So you have a plan. You want to get to automation and process automation, general AI, but with machine learning to make these decisions for you. How do you join the dots within your data silos, within your processes, so they're not manual, so a system can do this? So paint me a picture, paint me a journey, so I can take on a project, it's affordable, it's achievable, it has a return on investment, delight me with it, and then build the next one. So you're starting with systems and processes that can grow, that they can take on more systems and processes, that they can link with systems orchestration, that you can then start to plug in robotic process automation or some AI or some apps, and then you can get to machine learning. That's all based on blockchain, so you've democratized the information. But try and sell me that all in one go, and you've got no chance. So it's understand the journey, plot it out, demystify it, and pick something that you can specify properly, as David said, qualify it properly, and deliver it on time to budget, and make that person that you've persuaded to do something with you, make them look good.
Scoping, phased implementation, relationships, all based on business need and business requirements.
That's the catch.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you all for your insights and for your time. Thanks, Simon, David, and Ellen. Thank you to everyone tuning into the webinar today. If you're interested in digging further into the findings, the white paper that we've been basing this whole conversation on will land in your inboxes over the next couple of days. Thank you and have a great day.